Welcome to LabMinutes.com in our lab video series on UCS-E. You can find a complete list of UCS-E video on our website by clicking on the link above and sign up for our newsletters to receive the latest video updates. This is the first video of our video series on Cisco Unified Computing System Express, or UCS-E. UCS-E has been around for quite some time now and has been used primarily to provide virtualized network services at the WAN edge that server compute resources to run business application at remote sites. With Cisco's announcement of Network Function Virtualization, or NFV, where all of your network services can potentially become virtualized, including the router functions, there will be even more dependency on the use of UCS-E. So we feel like this is probably a good time to talk about this subject, and that's why we created this video series. So this video will serve as an introduction of Cisco UCS-E. We will go over the current UCS-E product lines and then dive into a discussion of interface and networking components of UCS-E. Hence, there would not be any configuration in this particular lab. UCS-E, which is short for UCS Express, is a complementary compute platform to Cisco UCS product family. UCS-E is basically a standalone server, which means that unlike the UCS-B or C series, assuming you are already familiar with those, it cannot be managed by the UCS manager, at least at this time. UCS-E unique characteristic lies in its small form factor, and it's been designed to fit inside an ISRG2 or 4K routers, which makes it ideal for a deployment that requires a small installation footprint. And this is, for example, like at the branch sites. Since UCS-E usually has a lower computing resources than other UCS servers, it is only good for running a handful of applications, but nevertheless, depending on the application resources requirement that you have, it can still meet your server needs for the site. Taking this one step further, you can even install a switch module inside the same router where the UCS-E is co-located, and what you have now is a complete routing, switching, and server solution in a single device. This is what Cisco usually refers to as a branch-in-the-box solution. In addition to using UCS-E for day-to-day business applications such as Active Directory, DHCP, or DNS Server, which is in some cases already on the separate servers or hardwares at the site, UCS-E has a lot of potential uses from the network application perspective. With many of the Cisco networking applications becoming more and more a virtual machines, you can install an ESXi on the UCS-E and run those virtual applications. Some of the supported applications today includes Virtual Network Analysis Module, or VNAM, Virtual Wide Area Application Services, or VWAS, Virtual ASA, Virtual Wireless LAN Controller, Virtual Firepower Threat Defense, and even a Virtual ISR for the routing function. In terms of available UCS-E products, Cisco divides UCS-E into two categories, as you can see in this diagram, with the first category on the left as Network Compute Engine, or NCE, and the category on the right, which is E-Series Server, with the E-Series Server having the higher computational power and capacity. UCS-E comes in different form factor. Physically, under Network Compute Engine, you can tell it is an NCE type module with the module number starts with EN. Starting off with the EN120E, and this is a double wide EH-WIC that takes up 2 WIC slots. And since we're talking about WIC slots here, it's only meant for the ISRG2 since the 4K has completely different slot form factor, which is the NIM. Then you have the compute engine that's been specifically designed for ISR 4K, which is EN140N, and this is the latest addition to the product line. And you can see that it has a single NIM form factor. Right underneath, we have EN120S M2, and this is a single wide service module, which means that this module will only work on the routers where there is G2 or 4K that has the service module slot. Now on the right hand side we have different flavors of E-Series servers, and you can tell that this E-Series server because the model number starts with a letter E, and the E-Series server comes in two different form factor. One is a single wide service module and one is a double wide service module. For E140S M1 M2, this is a single wide service module, and you can easily tell that this is a single wide modules by seeing this S in their name for single. On the flip side, if you see a letter D, that tells you that it's a double wide service module, and you actually have a lot more variety with the double wide service module with E140D, 160D, 140DP, and 160DP. And this double wide service module only works on the ISRG2 or 4K that can support double service module slot. At a very high level, each of these modules varies on their CPU, memory, and disk capacity. So when it comes to choosing a platform, if you already have a router, then you need to first choose a model that has compatible form factor physically and then look at possible hardware resources. But if you're purchasing everything brand new, you can start by choosing which UCS-E that can provide resources required by the application that you need, then work your way back to the router models. For basic network application with one or a few VMs, Network Compute Engine might be sufficient. But if you plan to run additional applications for your business, then you might want to look at the E-Series server that has more powerful computing resources. We are not going to go into much more details on the hardware specifications, as we can easily look that up on the product datasheet and Cisco website. As you can see, the UCS-E comes with various network interfaces. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the network interfaces, which is one of the things that you should know for your design and configuration. There is different type of interface available on the UCS-E. If you have dealt with the UCS-C series, you should already be familiar with the concept of LAN on motherboard, or LOM, and Cisco Integrated Management Controller, or CIMC. For those who have not heard of CIMC before, it is basically a Cisco version of ILO for out-of-band management. Unless the model support external monitor mouse keyboards connection, you will need CIMC access to install host operating system. So CIMC is usually where you begin your configuration when you deal with UCS-E. Not to mention that that's how you control a server behavior like RAID configuration as well. On the UCS-E series, you need to pick which interface you want to use for CIMC and which you want to use for server data, and that's no different with UCS-C series. The concept of LOM and CMCs are still there, but the only difference with that is that both of the management and data traffic can pass through the same LOM interface, although you still have an option for a dedicated CMC connection on some models. And in addition to external physical interface, UCS-E also has two internal interfaces as designated by GE0 and GE1 here that connects directly to the router backplane. So with UCS-E, you basically have internal interfaces and external interfaces, which are a support that you can see from the front panel.